Welcome to the Brand Lincoln Podcast, the show where we dig into the stories behind Lincoln's most inspiring business owners and influential people. It's where big ideas and even bigger personalities collide. Proudly sponsored by Perch Merch, your one-stop shop for screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products that make your brand unforgettable. Call us at 402-217-5212 or visit us at perch-merch.com to give your business the glow-up it deserves. And don't just listen, be a true multitasker. Like, follow, and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. And check us out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Brand Lincoln Podcast. We're basically everywhere you waste your time. Let's get inspired, Lincoln. The stories start now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln. I am your host, Chris Beecham, joined by my two co-hosts, Joe Cruz and Henry Schmidt.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Yeah, they're sharing a microphone today, which is fine. So, guys, guess what?
What's up?
This is our 50th episode.
Holy smokes, that came up fast.
Yeah, especially, remember when you said it was a dumb idea?
No.
If you would have fallen off the chair.
Chris
Right.
had just rigged my chair to break right as...
That was perfect timing. So anyway.
It was a great idea, always has been.
So for the 50th episode, we wanted one of the most recognizable brands in Lincoln, and I think we got him here. So today in the Perch Merch studio, we have Jan Wilcoxon and Dennis Can of Lee's Chicken, located at 1940 West Van Dorn. I'm pretty sure everybody knows where Lee's Chicken is in this town.
Yeah. Most people.
Yes.
Under the big rooster.
Yes. The rooster's name is...
I know it. It's Pioneer Pete.
Ding, ding, bingo.
Which has been stolen a few times. We can get into all sorts of fun stuff.
Oh,
Let's just start. Okay, so here's what I know. It was built in 1935.
45.
35. Okay, listen, your website said.
Well,
it was like
might take
the
that
shack.
back,
The
because
shack. It wasn't,
They
yes.
bought it in 1945, but the building was there before.
Okay, and it was a shack, no running water, no.
Oh, I tell you, our website's not completely correct. It was a shack in 35, but it was selling beer because Prohibition lifted in 33, and it was selling beer called Al's Place in 33 to the guys coming off the newly built golf course at Pioneers Park. That park was built and dedicated in 1933.
It's that old?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk no running water. That's a good topic to talk about. You're lucky you have me here today.
Got it.
The original part of the building is the bar and the stools and some booths around it in the front.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I want to talk about water real fast.
Okay.
When they put the roundabout in, we had to move our big rooster in the back. I'm moving him back about maybe 10 feet. Anyhow, in the process, his stump is still there. And they were messing around with that stump, and they found a well underneath it, a beautifully bricked up well directly behind the rooster stump. It goes about 30 feet down, still completely full of water. In fact, Lee still uses the same well water to this day. So we always had water. Maybe it wasn't completely running.
That is... Oh, man.
But it leads me to a quick little story. I think that intersection has been some kind of a trail since at least the state began in 1867, and maybe Indian type trail before that. No, without doubt. There's minor evidence with the outpost down the street and its old records of movement that direction. And what other trail would there be? People have been coming in and out of Lincoln from the west in that direction.
And it was still considered it was outside of Lincoln.
Yes.
I mean, it was a long way out.
Yeah. It was in the country for years. We became part of the city when they annexed us in for the Lee's Place houses, which are right behind us now.
Okay.
So that was maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Okay. So Jan,
Yes.
how did you get involved in this?
I was 13 when I started in the business. I was a car hop, and my husband, Ozzy, was...
Husband at
when
13
he was
years old?
13. Pardon me?
At 13, you had a husband?
It's real Jerry Lee Lewis.
That's how you met him?
I met him because he ran Tillman's Plaza on Winthrop Road in South. In fact, they were the first people to have KFC in Lincoln, Mr. Tillman. And then Mr. Tillman became ill. And so then they closed Tillman's restaurant. And we had been out to Lee's eating because Ozzy had known them for many years. And they asked him if he wanted to come to work. So we went to work. And he ran the front, and I worked in the kitchen.
What year are we at right now?
That was in, let's see, 59, 60, 61.
Okay. So it had already been around and
1961.
kind of established at that point in
Yeah.
time. Okay. So he's running the front, you're running the back. Sorry, go.
It's a labor of love. The restaurant business was a labor of love to us.
Okay.
hmm
I've been in the restaurant business. Okay.
I didn't know that.
So then how do you become the owners?
Oh, well, he managed it for about 5 years. And then Lee's son was in Texas. And he left his work in Texas and came up here. And so, of course, Lee naturally would like to have his son in the business. So we left, and we were gone for about 5 or 6 years. And we came in one night, and Lee just asked Ozzy what was he doing? Would he come in and help him that weekend? So we went in and helped him, and Lee decided he would sell it to him.
So there must have been an argument with the son or something that he's like,
Yeah.
I don't need
The
I don't need
son
the chicken.
wasn't meant for the restaurant.
Sure. You gotta have the heart and the love for
You
the
do.
restaurant.
Right.
Otherwise,
You really do.
Okay. So you take over, you become the owners.
Yes.
And that was 1970?
Yes.
Okay. So that was.
We bought it in 1970.
Got it. And you've been there ever since.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about it. How's that going?
Well, someday that will happen. I don't know. I don't know exactly what day that's going to happen.
I mean, you're still there. You're still working
Yes,
it.
I'm still working. I work every single day.
Okay. And business, I mean, I live by there. I drive by there. The parking lot's full a lot.
Yeah.
I said you're probably the most name brand of Lincoln, right? You're the oldest restaurant in Lincoln, correct?
Now, yes, I believe so.
it's Lee's and Runza's. Like those are the.
Renza ain't that old.
Right.
It's not, but that's like what people always talk about when they're visiting from out of town.
Right.
True.
So it's you got to get at least chicken. You got to get a Runza. But
Yeah, that's true. We are the lowest. We have been the lowest for a long time.
Yeah.
Some people
Right.
thought the steakhouse down the road might have rivaled us back in the day, but they haven't. And I know for a fact Runza does not. I think they're probably almost 10 years younger than we are. We're 45. They're around 55.
okay.
And I love to express that point.
The Virginia Cafe is an old restaurant, too. It comes in there somewhere.
I think we're still.
And
got
of
it.
course, Tasty. Well, Tasty wasn't quite that old. But,
Tasty's gone now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You beat that.
Yeah.
but we
You're-
sell Tasties.
Oh, is that right?
we sell a lot of them too.
Got it. So
Some
Dennis, where
people
do you
think
come
we
in?
have the best Tasties.
Oh, got it. I will let
The
everybody know.
tastiest tasty.
That's the facts.
Chicken,
That's
chicken
the
and
chicken and the
tasties.
best Tasties.
Everybody's good at Lee's except Jan and me.
Well, Dennis, tell us your story. How are you involved? How did you get-
People always ask me if I'm the owner, and I do admit to being Lee 3. So I mean, there's Lee, the first Lee, then my father-in-law, because I married in the family, would have been 2, and then after he passed, I became Lee 3. But that's how I came to the family in the late 80s, very early 90s. My wife and I met at Lee 2. There was a second location on 70th and O Street.
Oh,
I met
Yeah.
my wife there.
Well, I wish that was still open because that's
A
right
real
by
love
my house.
story, a poultry love story. And that's when I entered in the family. And maybe 4 or 5 years after that. Well, I started working right away, but on and off. And I didn't begin managing the business maybe for another 4
When
or
you were
5
in
years.
college.
Yeah, I finished school. And my wife and I moved to the West Coast for a while. Then we came back. We finally started managing Lee's.
so it's still a family business.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Any other family that still works there?
The
But you probably
grandkids
had a
have-
lot
The
of family.
grandkids have worked.
My son
Yeah.
works there.
I had 2 daughters, and one is deceased. She passed when she was 27. And then our oldest daughter, Michelle, is
my wife.
Dennis's wife.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's all we have. So, naturally it falls back to Dennis and Michelle.
Got it.
Did you say the grandkids are interested?
I have sons in the restaurant business already.
Yeah.
We have 5 sons. Well, 5, yeah, and a daughter. But they don't live here. I have one son that does work for us.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and who knows? He's just finishing college, and he's
He's going to graduate.
yeah, and so
This
he might go abroad for a while, and we'll see. Who knows?
And the other boys work in restaurants. They're working in Oklahoma right now.
Yeah.
Because what's your plan? Are you just going to just keep working?
Well, I'll work as long as I can. As soon as I can, I will get out.
I don't believe it.
I can't do that.
And I quit
right
fighting
now.
that a long time ago.
So you still enjoy it? You still love everything
I do.
about it?
I love it.
So what has been
I
like?
don't know what I would do otherwise.
Yeah.
If I didn't work, I would probably have to volunteer.
You could get into Bitcoin or something, I bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
she parties at least 2 nights a week.
Well, I go dancing with my friends now.
Well, speaking of music, I want to kind of tell some of my memories from Lee's Chicken. We always went there with grandparents and stuff, and I always remember you had a pianist playing.
It's an organ.
It was an organ,
Dorothy. Yeah.
and she was blind.
Margaret, yes.
Yes, that's who I remember. And Dad would always give me $1, go put it in her jar, and
Yeah.
request, La Bamba or something like off
Right.
the wall. But she would play it, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. So,
Yeah. She would know all those songs.
yeah.
And she was I think she still plays. Her mother passed away, and her sister didn't want to be totally responsible for her. And she went to school and learned how to do Braille.
Mm.
And she had a friend that did that also. So she's working in Braille somewhere for the blind. And she does do some playing over at Madonna and some other places, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
She had never lived by herself before.
did they always have the organ in there, or was that a choice that you or someone else made to put it in?
Oh, no. At Lee's, the organ was there. That was the first thing they had.
Is that right?
Right.
So that's a staple from the 1940s.
Lee,
Yes.
Lee was
Okay.
Lee was way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
He had the live music for one, and a couple of things he did in the early days. Well, another one we still do today is the birthdays. Every place celebrates a birthday because everybody has a birthday, and we've done ours with the sparklers as long as I can remember. So that's something I think Lee got going on too. I think you guys might have added the sparklers. I'm not sure who did that, but that's something I've seen in pictures since. It was old school 50s thing. Anyhow, so besides those two things in the 40s, mind you, Lee had a television set in that joint that picked up TV, and he also had air conditioning in the 40s. Two things that didn't exist in a normal household, and he got people to come all the way out, in the country,
Yeah.
damn near in horse carriage to, back then, to enjoy Lee's Chicken. So he was really revolutionary in the way he built that place. And probably the last thing and the greatest thing with his idea was he invented the catering service, picnic service. He had the park there, he had the restaurant. So he started catering picnics for the park or wherever he could, and then local businesses started taking off and having him do different parties. And so those are several things that were very, very, very revolutionary about Lee's back in the 40s. Yeah, that got
And we
all
all
started. And it's benefited us to this
we
day.
also had curb service,
Yeah, to go.
and you could drink a beer on the curb.
That's a good
Yeah.
story too.
Heck
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in order for us to get a Class C liquor license, we had to give up that license.
Yeah.
There was only 2 left in the state. Originally, there was 3 licenses, and then we had to give that up because they wanted to get away from it.
Now
And
you
it was
could-
probably a good idea because then the kids start coming in.
Yeah.
So
It's still
how
cool as hell, though.
difficult is it?
I
I remember I checked a man's age, his ID, and he just looked barely 21 to me, but he was like in his 30s. So,
compliment.
I don't know. That might have been a fake ID.
no, it wasn't. He was a long-time customer.
Well, the curb service was cool because you could get a beer in your car. And like she said, only 1 or 2 places in the entire state that occurred. And the one store I can think about.
What year would that have been?
When did you give it up? It's probably been the early 70s you gave it up, right after you guys took over.
Yeah,
The first 5 years.
I'm thinking probably about 73 or something.
Right. So say
Yeah.
from the
I'll have
time
to
of their
look that up.
inception, 45, until that date, you could get what would happen is you could pull up in your car with your family, and someone would come to your car, take your order, just like the old car hops, and bring out all your food in a tray. They'd bring the beer out first. You could sit there and drink and eat in your car. And there's one old story this lady told me years ago, or maybe it was a guy, how on Friday nights, his old man worked like someplace like Dieter Foundry. It was just a disgusting job. The guy was filthy when he was done working. And he'd bring the whole family out in the car to Lee's. They'd sit outside, and he'd have his beer and a T-bone steak, and everyone would have their dinners and have a great time. And that's how they enjoyed Lee's all those years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody has a story.
Absolutely. If there's
Yeah.
10 million stories.
You've probably heard a lot.
And we like them all.
stories.
So if you guys got any, let them loose. We love them.
Now, well, hang on. While we're talking about beers, you're talking before the podcast about you got to keep an eye on your beer mugs that you have
Oh,
there.
yeah. They got a big our Lee's emblems on them.
Oh,
Yeah.
the label.
Yeah, it's got our logo with the big rooster.
Okay.
I'd refer to him as Rooster versus Cock, even though he's the biggest cock in Lincoln as well as the most photographed.
Well, I don't know. I know a couple guys.
That's great.
They're real.
I don't know about most photographed, buddy.
And most stolen cock.
That's a fact.
How many times was Pete taken off property?
I think it's up to 3, but 2 were the most highly publicized. The very first time, no, they all turned out being pretty publicized.
Yeah. It was like a citywide manhunt. You know, like you're not gonna hide it.
Well,
That's
I'll tell you the first time, it's thanks to Jan that whole legend was born, to be honest with you. The first time the highway had just been finished, 77 deal, and trucks were making the wrong turn and turn around our lot a lot, often. And Werner Enterprises, my wife still calls them chicken murderers. They were the first ones to turn around our lot in the middle of the night and run the sumbitch over.
clipped.
Yeah, he's on the side. So we pulled him around back that afternoon, and he sat there. And my wife and I lived upstairs at the time. And I'll never forget, we had a dog, and he was barking, and I got up, blurry-eyed, go outside, look around, nothing, go back to bed. When we got up in the morning, that damn chicken was gone. Someone was robbing it.
It was already
down behind the building. Someone had seen it. They came back with a pickup truck, loaded up, and drove the hell away. And it was a big prank. And we all just felt shitty, or bad, whatever. You edit it. But Jan was the one, she called the newspaper and said, hey, someone stole our rooster,
They're like, we're running with it.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. And then, once they run the story, then the radio starts reading it and put it on air. And then a couple of DJs, I think it was for the Blaze, they went crazy with it because they had some anniversary probably going, and started offering concert tickets for the return of the rooster. Yeah, it was Ozzy Osbourne and Rob Zombie tickets.
Well, they would have bit the head off.
Yeah.
And so they just brought it back?
Yeah, they're the ones that blew it up. They did their promo type stuff, and they had a huge thing where we got leads, we got this, it all got a big built up to the culmination of the exchange, which was all covered by radio. The exchange in a field somewhere outside the city with pickup truck to pickup truck and chicken and tickets being moved at the same time.
And they drove through town.
And they drove through town.
With a parade.
Brought it back.
Okay.
So that is how the whole legend was born as far as that is concerned. And then since then, it's just gotten bigger, if you can believe it or not.
Yeah. That's awesome, though.
Right.
It's a staple,
We need to put a big old Daryl on our roof.
I tried to do that. You told me, no, you weren't doing that because you would have to do max metal and everything. That was my original plan. So I don't want to hear it from you.
We need a big 3D one.
Okay.
And then we need to let someone steal it so we can do the same sort of publicity.
Or we steal theirs, put it on top of our
Tell everybody you never did anything. You didn't take it.
We'll replace theirs with ours.
There we go.
That's what.
How tall is the ornament?
The ornament.
That's what I'm gonna call it.
What is it?
I'd say
5 feet?
no. He looks like he's 5 feet because he's about 14 off the ground.
Yeah.
But when he's down low, I'd say to the top of his head is closer to 8.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
between 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we had been looking for a chicken, and we saw there was an auction down around Fall City, And so Ozzy drove down there and went to that auction, and he got the chicken.
Okay, wait. This is spectacular. Okay. So you didn't make that chicken.
No,
That was bought at an auction. What was it?
a
Same
chicken.
thing?
No, we're talking about the symbol out front, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was always a chicken.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
What Chris assumed you guys made it or had someone hired someone.
Oh,
to
no.
no, you got it
No.
from an auction.
We bought it was at that time they were selling a lot of them, but
you
we
can't-
bought it at Ozzy bought it at an auction.
And then
then
just brought it
Brought
back
it
here.
back to Lincoln.
You're like, we're going to put this outside the restaurant.
Yes.
But what was it for when you bought it? Like, what was its last use?
I
It
presume the symbol.
I believe.
So
in
just
Falls
another
City.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
a to-go
listeners,
place.
keep your eyes out. Peter the Prairie Pioneer Pete needs friends. So if you see any more roosters out there, snag them up and drop them off at Lee's.
That's a good story.
I could think at least one right now is going to get robbed if you guys start something.
So,
Besides mine.
Well, you had asked what Ozzy and I did when we left Lee's the first time.
yes.
And I didn't tell you the exciting part about what we did.
What'd you do?
We were in a partnership at East Hill Supper Club.
Okay.
Now, you guys were young at that time, but it was a private club on 70th Street, and they had a golf course there at one time.
70th and what? Was that between?
That'd be Sumner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd been there.
On the
That
east
swimming
side.
pool?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Did
I'm
you go
showing my
swimming
age.
there?
Yeah, when I was
He's
a kid.
Right.
The neighbors remembers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had a lot of entertainment. Rusty Draper, he was a big thing then.
Count Basie.
Count Basie, the Diamonds.
Those guys were big.
They were
deals.
really,
50s, early
really
60s.
popular. They would fill that house even if a tornado was coming.
It was a
So
supper
all the
club.
girls would want to come and sit in front because they were all single. So that was a lot of fun. That was a different type of experience for us, but we did the food section, and it was just a lot of fun.
So you and your
We
husband
left there.
just always kind of worked together.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
hmm
And yeah, you stayed married and working together.
Yes, we did. A long time. 58 years, I think it was.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is like the biggest change since you've seen in the whole restaurant of Lee's?
Well, we keep everything the same, but for football, when they started doing the games at night, then that kind of cut the restaurant business down in Lincoln. And so by the time the game got over, we would be closed because we closed by 10 o'clock then. And I would say that is probably the biggest change in business that I realize. Everything else is basically the same because we still sell a lot of chicken.
Yeah.
How about
Thank God.
when Pioneers Park opened up the Pinewood Bowl? Because we've gone, our family's gone to eat before we go to the concert, and that's always a nice little.
That roundabout
we
is
get
my
along.
worst enemy on nights they're having.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that line goes.
you
well
hit me
past
up. I got a shortcut to get you around the round.
Okay, good.
We get a lot of business from Pioneer Park for the concerts. Yeah.
We could always take more. It depends on who's playing, but because a lot of our crowd's an older crowd. But in the last couple of years, we're seeing a lot more younger folks. So the bands that will draw a lot of more younger people, we're starting to see more of them as customers too. Some nights we wouldn't see hardly anything out of those situations, but that's picking up now. So it's all turned into a good deal. Yeah. And we'd like to promote that a lot more this summer and try and, have some kind of event pre-show, stuff like that. The weekday shows are hard to get something going on because so many folks are coming right from work, but a weekend show would be fun to do, have some kind of beer garden type event pre-show would be gas.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
Yeah.
That'd be a
It's
blast.
interesting that when the people go to the concerts, we always sell more beer and more
Oh,
drinks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are
yeah.
ready to go.
And with their satellite or Pandora radio, I can tune in whoever's playing. I can have their radio station on and jack it up. And
Yeah.
And then, of course, when the organ kicks in, hopefully he knows a few of them. But it's still cool. The organ's always been such a cool thing there, you know. It's live music and it sounds like a carnival when it's really kicking. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, were you both there a few years ago when the tornado came through?
Yeah.
Probably about the scariest day of your life, I'd assume.
I got to tell you.
I think you were there.
I was.
Oh, you were.
It happened so fast.
Check under the table.
I know. I was there. It was about 4:15, I think.
I'll never forget. It was Cinco de Mayo. It was a Sunday.
Oh.
It was a Sunday on Cinco de Mayo, about 4:15 in the afternoon. You're right, between 4 and 5. And literally, we knew the weather was changing. It was looking goofy. And this individual who works in our kitchen was messing around out the back door. And we have those trees with the white petals on them, you know, everywhere, and they're full bloom. And I'm out that back door, and those things are starting to, those petals, you know, this huge swirl. And I'm grabbing her because she's, a tornado's going to take me away. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And yeah, so by the time I get her in, I'm rushing to the front of the building, and the thing had blasted the dairy suite down. By the way, I like to mention that God does like chicken more than ice cream. Anyhow, by that time, it had blasted the dairy suite down, knocked out all of our front windows, or at least the ones on the west end of the building, and then a rack of trees across the street. So it hits like that fast.
So like within 30 seconds of you grabbing her, your windows were out.
Yeah, and me getting to the front, getting her in, and then, I mean, I went right to, boom, it happened that fast.
And I was with the customers.
Yeah.
We had 2 or 3 tables in there at the time.
I think we had a few more than that. And we had a rush coming on. It was wild because we had no power, but our gas was working. And the people who had food on their table were under their tables, like you said, literally under their tables.
We asked them because we didn't have a place except our walk-in to put them.
Yeah, but it was so crazy. And then, of course, it got busy because everyone wanted to come sit down. Everyone wanted to come eat. We had to close. But everyone there, I can safely say, did eat before they left, even though it was in the dark. But one of the most unique things I remember seeing after I went out front of there's 2 things. After I went out front of the building, there's the little silver round discs you see for roofers use and the little nails they use. Right in the corner of the building, it's kind of a wood siding. There was one of the discs stuck straight in sideways, parallel, and a nail right underneath it. I thought that was pretty damn cool. Yeah. And then people asked me about the dairy suite and how, if we received any damage. And I can honestly tell you the only damage we truly received besides the windows getting smashed was the entire roof of the dairy suite. I'm talking rafters, decking, shingles, the entire roof of the dairy suite. There's a video of it somewhere online. It blew actually over the front part of our building, clipped a little vent fan for our furnace, and then landed on the tables in our beer garden. Yeah. Their entire roof. I'll never forget the next day, my kids and I loaded my pickup truck with the pieces and took them back across the street and threw them in a dumpster she had over there. Whoa. But that was as rough as we had it. We had some minor repairs, you know, compared to what they did.
That's crazy.
So if you were catty corner to where your building is, might have been a different outcome.
Yeah. And if you drive west up Van Dorn, everything on that side of the street for about I'd say a good quarter mile, the houses, trees, just racked. And then you get up just about to, there's the entrance to the park up there on the south side. So right across from that in that area, you can see how the storm crossed the street there because there was maybe a 50-foot span of trees that were just whacked. You could follow the trail of the storm all the way down the street. Yeah. So it came from the north, crossed Van Dorn, and then came straight east towards the dairy suite and right across the street from us. Literally. It wasn't like, a Category 9 tornado or anything like that. But
has there been any other things like that, like real scary moments that you've encountered? Or
we had a man that was having diabetic attack.
That's happened several times.
And he hit the roundabout, and he flew up in the air, came down, landed right on our corner.
Is he driving something?
Yeah, a
car,
little BMW SUV. I think it was BMW Mercedes.
Is that what it was?
One of those, yeah.
Something like that. A very sturdy. So we have these 2 posts there for our signs, and the car comes right in between those posts, comes toward the building, and then turns to the left, and then evidently hit something, and it flipped around and went in the side of our building.
When was this?
About 2 or 3 feet from our glass line.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Right.
That was about 3 or 4 years ago. Since the roundabout went in, we've been hit twice. After almost 80 years, never hit, you know.
Put a
There was no
roundabout in.
curbs or no buffer before, but now there's a roundabout and all this buffer. We got hit twice, but that was the first time, and she's right.
Right.
It was a miraculous thing. The dude
That was
supposedly had a diabetic seizure, but he was, according to witnesses at the new Dairy Sweet trailer, saw him coming down the street doing that. They thought 80, and he was flying. And instead of going around the roundabout, he literally went over the roundabout.
The overbow.
Yeah, and then we have a big sign out there, and it's maybe 8 foot, maybe 10 tops between the building and these poles. So this guy, because I went and retraced it, he was airborne. When he hit the first roundabout curb, you could tell he was airborne over the roundabout, you know, bouncing, and then off the curb, and then he bounced up our curb, flew between the sign and the building, over a dead tree, and then paralleled the building to almost the end, where he smashed into the side of the
You have a
building.
picture of it?
Yeah.
It was a Mercedes.
Yeah. That's it. There you go.
So you guys were closed for 6 days, according to Journal Star.
Yeah, we were open when he came through the side of the building.
But nobody hurt.
You know, it's so crazy. I was maybe 20 feet away.
Yeah.
But a few months after that, we had a car coming down West Van Dorn, and it was a little icy, and the car came over on our property. Some way got around the roundabout and came about 4 inches from the building. That was a little scary.
That was another one.
And all the years that we were in business there, we never had, there was a lot of accidents on that corner. It's the busiest accident corner
It
in
was
Lincoln.
before the roundabout.
That
There was all
and
kinds of nasty stuff.
40th and Sheridan are the 2 busiest corners for accidents. And, you know, that's the roundabout. After that, then we had problems with it.
But we got one more.
Before, we didn't.
That was a close call, but there was one other time. Soon after we had the first hit repaired, like I'd say less than 6 months, there was 3 drunken monkeys decided to go around the roundabout as fast as they could. And I only know this because the neighbors, as witnesses, we have new apartments across the street last 4 or 5 years. They heard this crazy screeching noise, screech, and they come out to see, and these guys are going round and round, lost control and smashed the corner of the building. Okay, so the first time we got the west side done, this time we got the south side redone.
You're going to have a whole new building in 5 or 10 years.
Anyhow, those
So they started to leave.
yeah, they started to make
I
their
live
escape.
at the restaurant.
Yes,
So
never
we
leaves.
heard it and got up and went outside and looked, and 2 guys got out of the car and they were looking around.
No, they tried to escape first, and somehow they smashed the car trying to escape, so they couldn't drive it away, and the cops got there
Right.
to bust them.
So they started to go off the lot and they hit a pole.
That's what it was.
But so we didn't really know who the guys were, who actually owned the car. But the next day we found the license plate.
Oh, my God.
And they left their front plate. It was great.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Cheech and Chong business. Hey, it's over there.
Then the police came
Yeah.
and
So that's
they wanted to know because the person left in the car, there was still a person in the car. They said, he definitely wasn't driving, was he? I said, no, the 2 guys are walking up the street. You know, you can still see them, but the police couldn't leave the accident. He had to stay there. And he was really loaded, I guess. And the other 2
monkeys.
guys kept putting beer in our oil container there. So, that's probably a lot of our excitement, at least.
What's your favorite moments? What are, like, when you look back, like, what are some of your, like, that always come to mind?
There's so many things. Of course, it's exciting for us because we had so many kids and families that would come in for their birthday parties. And that was a real big thing because we had our cakes with sparklers. And
You probably had the same ones come in every year too. That you know,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
once you start a tradition like that, usually it's the same place almost every year.
Yeah.
Just watch them grow up, and then
You're jealous of your sibling's birthday, so you want to do it there too.
yeah.
Birthdays are my favorite times there. It's fun to have a good show for
Okay.
the people. Yeah. But I remember
That's your
one,
favorite time.
speaking of traditions, we had a room, there's probably 50 people in there, and I'm going back to chum them a little bit and find out whose birthday it is, you know. And so if I get to the point, like, whose birthday is it? And they look at me and they go, well, she's been dead 5 years.
That's right.
So we do. We celebrate a lot of birthdays for people who used to love to come there for their birthday, as well as people who are still around. And of course, the young kids with the cake and the sparkler and all that, that's a real good hook to get them to come back, you know, smell the fireworks in the air.
It's fun when they come in and they tell us all their favorite moments when they come in. And of course, usually it's Dorothy or Margaret. It's amazing how many people remember Margaret.
The organ players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, they come back. This is where we used to sit.
Yep.
And they wanted to sit in that table.
Well, there's
and
somebody
that.
sitting there right now, so you can't.
We'll wait. We'll wait a half hour so we can sit in that booth.
Yeah. Now, Dorothy Appleby wrote a book about playing at Leeds,
Okay.
and it was very interesting. Where that one time, one of her favorite stories in there was that she had these kids sitting at the organ because the kids would go up and sit on a bench, and it was time for her to take a break, and so she said, "Well, I'm going to take a break. Why don't you go back to your table, and then when I come back, you can come back up here." And they said, "Well, our mom and dad aren't here." And she said, "Well, where are they?" They went to a movie
Just
and
dropped
left
them
their
off.
kid. They had come in, they
Babysitter.
ate, they came in and ate dinner. Then they went to the movie and left their kids to sit with Dorothy at the organ.
Well, so if we can't find a sitter for date night, I know where to take
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Now you know what to
It's
do.
$100 an hour these days.
Yeah. Different times now. Different times.
That was quite funny.
Oh my God.
And then she would tell the kids that we had the deer head by the bar. It hasn't been there for a long time, but it used to be there. And so they would talk to her she would talk to the kids about the deer, and they wanted to know how the deer got there. And she said, "Well, on the other side of the telephone, he was talking on the telephone, and someone came by and pushed him through."
Like weird, dumb deer.
That's a good one. I've never heard that before. And I've heard them all.
You haven't?
No.
Oh.
No, that is some of the nicest
I'll
moments when you
like
get
to read the
like a
book.
little customer in who maybe hadn't been there in 25 or 30 years, and you know the music's just right, and of course the ambience is always there, and you can just see them fall back in time, you know. And some people get tore up, you know, but the whole bit of it, it's just unique and fun to experience when you're there.
I think it's awesome that you're both there a lot and you engage with those people and you hear, like, I can't even imagine. Everybody's got a story
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
that you just hear.
Yeah. And, we listen to them because it's fun.
That's awesome.
We take the time to listen. It's important to them. And so it's important to us.
Well, you've been a part of a lot of people's memories
Yes.
in Lincoln,
Mhm.
you know,
A lot of people.
and Dennis is getting there now too. So what's your favorite times? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
No, not especially. You know, we always run a fireworks stand on the 4th of July, and I love that. It's just crazy. We have a produce stand that's just selling sweet corn and watermelon. It's everything American you can think of, the best of America. You got fireworks,
Chicken.
then you got all this beautiful produce growing right down along, you know, either the Platte or the Elkhorn River, and then of course Lee's fried chicken, baby. And it's just exciting around there, and it's wild and it's fun, and there's tons of people. And I just really like that, you know, when it's going on. You know, anytime that place is really popping, you can just feel the real groove. And it's my favorite time to be there, even though I'm not there. I'm always there, whether it is or isn't.
Yeah. Has it been the same chicken recipe the entire time?
That's our secret.
Yes.
Okay. What's the secret?
That's it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, add a computer system, but don't change your recipe.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
The original owners were Lee and Alice Franks. And Alice was from Louisiana. And so the recipe is her mother's recipe. And so when people come up from Louisiana or anywhere in the
Mississippi,
South,
Alabama, anywhere down there.
They come in and they want to try that Southern fried chicken. And they'll come in and say, tastes just like home.
Yeah, it tastes like my mom's or my grandma's.
You know?
That's our favorite compliment, and we get it a lot from those folks. Yeah, I've had to sell it to these young Southerners before, like, oh, tell them how great it is. And when they come to you after they finish, they go, oh, it reminds me of my sitting in my grandma's house. That's just, we're doing our job, and that's what, makes it fun, to be able to provide a taste and a feeling for people, the comfort for folks who come and hang out with us.
Yeah, because it is very nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything about it.
It is.
I got a question.
Oh, sorry.
I got a question. How many times have you guys called the police on a patron of your restaurant?
I can't think
Wow.
of it. I can't think of it.
Unless they run into your building.
I feel like
Yeah. Oh, here's a funny story, though. We're not that far from the regional center, right? They're right down the road. And I'll never forget, when I first started there 30 plus years ago, I'd worked side by side with my father-in-law, Ozzy. And, we'd be plugging along, we'd be kind of busy, and he'd look up and see someone kind of stumbling in the door, and he'd go right to the phone. We got one of yours down here. And he could spot him a mile away. The people would walk away from the regional center. They'd come in the door, and he'd have them on the phone before that guy sat down at a booth, and they'd be down here and pick them up and take them back. So we've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
But we usually, we don't want to call the cops on you unless we have to, and we normally don't have to,
I do remember it was in the 60s, and it was on a football night, and the building was packed. And Mrs. Franks, her name was Alice, she was there, and she went into the club, and there was these two guys that had a little too much to drink, and they were kind of misbehaving, and she asked them to leave. And they started to give her a little problem about it. And I was really impressed because she grabbed the one guy's back arm and put it behind his back and escorted him out the back door and said, and you stay out. And I thought, I don't know if I could do that.
take notes, and you're like, I got this.
But I don't remember, sometimes we would have to take some drinks away from people. But
Especially probably on football.
They were okay with it. They liked us, and the people, their behaviors were basically. But when people are intoxicated, they do things, you don't expect.
Closest I ever got to having a situation was back in the day, you didn't always put a gratuity on a larger ticket, right? And we had started doing that. And this fellow, they had separate checks for a large table, and he had a gratuity on his ticket. And he was upset that his friend who was with him was paying, so why the hell did he have to pay? So I said, well, that's how it is, Jack. Anyhow, he got really upset, and so we were kind of almost ready to go. And I said, let's take it outside. And he's like, yeah. And so I follow him, at a pace, right? We have a long entrance. It's 2 doors. He goes out one, then he goes down the exit hallway out the last door. And as soon as he gets out the door, I'm behind him. I pull it shut, lock it, turn around, I went back in. It's as close as I ever got. Thank God.
Out there all by himself.
I think he dumped the planter over. He went home.
So what's your plans for the restaurant now? There already big plans?
What's our plan?
Yeah. What's your plan?
Chris, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing for 70 years.
I think we'll keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it seems to be working.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the other location that I didn't know about that one?
On 70th and O.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was that?
Now, I came along
Must have been.
in 89, and it was only a couple of years old then, I think. 89 or 90. It was only several years.
Yeah. It was Alice's restaurant originally.
Okay.
Right.
Where would it have been located on 70th?
70th and it was like 70th and O, the bank's on the corner, and then there's a drive. Well, Mottsalon's there now.
Okay.
Yeah, they bought it from us. Yeah. Where Mottsalon
that
was.
building was okay.
And so I worked over there, and Ozzy stayed. Actually, what we did was cut our business in half. because we had the people. And in those days, Lincoln wasn't really ready for you to have a lot of different restaurants.
Yeah, population-wise and everything. Yeah.
And then Ozzy wasn't well, and so we leased it to Motsalon. And Abram's done a very good job.
That's been there for a while.
Yeah.
And he's expanded a little bit.
And he's,
I really wasn't in the picture on that stuff.
he had some partners,
I was in the business.
Yeah.
some other guys that they, went together and opened it. But Abram had our work ethic
Abram,
more
yeah.
so
Still does.
than the other guys.
Hard work guy.
You know
Yeah.
Abram?
Yep.
Yeah. And so Abram was the person we wanted there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's always
Always
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
just like you. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And he's a very nice person. He and his wife both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we appreciated that.
Okay.
That made us feel good that when we were leaving that someone else was going to treat the people the same as we
that's
would.
important.
Yeah. Although it's Mexican food.
Yeah, you still get chicken. It's just different.
Yeah, different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. One day, a couple years, it must have been about 4 or 5 years ago, Diners, Drive-In, and Dives called.
Oh.
And they were in Omaha. And they had called us and wanted information because the lady said, we have had more people ask for your business than any other business that they had ever opened, that they did. They did a show on.
Uh-huh.
And she wanted to know all about it. And I told her, that we try to keep everything the same. And that's really important to us. And she said, that is exactly what everyone tells us. That you can be gone 10 years and you go back there and you walk in and everything is exactly the same. And not only that, they had had more people from more states than any other business they had opened. Yeah.
They still didn't come. So
I was gonna say, what
the
happened?
sons of
They
bitches.
didn't come. I know they had done
Campus Eats. Watch
Oklahoma.
Campus Eats. They came.
right.
Okay.
And the guy that was with Campus Eats, he works with.
Oh yeah,
a
supposedly
guy
he was
on the
calling
show,
Guy Fiero and telling him
yeah.
what a gem he missed and all kinds of BS. I think they're all in cahoots.
That would have been awesome if they would
Yeah,
have come.
would have
for
been.
that.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Those shows are fun to do. They take all day when you're there, and they film every little detail. But we had it was the summertime. I had the corn stand going, so we were able to build it up. I got the dude with his big old 52 Husker car to come down. We had him. We had the restaurant was popping, and then at the end we had a corn shucking contest or corn husker contest. So I had the pride to offer up anyone in the Big Ten wants to learn how to be a corn husker. Come on out and see us. We'll fix you right up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you're not busy working at Lee's, what do you like to do recreationally here in Lincoln? Or what's your favorite restaurant to go to?
Oh.
Ooh. Well, my favorite thing is to go dancing over at the Eagles.
There we go. Good plug.
And there are several different restaurants that, I go to. I like to go to Motsalon. And we go, after our auxiliary meetings, we go over to Big Red Keno.
Do you play a lot of Keno too?
No, I don't.
No?
But
I do. I'll teach you, Jan. I'll go.
That'd be a
you and Carol. I got this.
well, we used to go to Vegas a lot,
Oh yeah.
and that was fun.
Yeah.
That's when Ozzy was alive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They spent a lot of time in Vegas when the mobsters still ran the place, Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was interesting.
First time I was in Vegas with my father-in-law, he'd point out the chandeliers he owned in certain casinos. With losses, lose 50 grand here. Well, that'll get you a couple chandeliers. He was a funny guy.
So other restaurants I don't go to a lot of restaurants anymore.
Yeah, no.
I don't either. I mean, we do, but always complain about them because we got the best one in town. Right, Janice? We got the best one.
Plus, you got to pay.
Right.
You know?
What's this gratuity here?
He's got it on his. Why is it on mine?
Yeah.
Well, years ago, we had, we still have Misty's, but we had Misty's and Tony and Luigi's.
Oh, Tony and Luigi's. I remember that.
And of course, we were active in the Restaurant Association. I was the president for 4 years, I guess it was. So you get to know everyone at that time and your friends. And so you go back and forth to each, person's restaurant.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Supporting each other.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was great.
This was a great 50th.
That was
50th podcast. That's
the next one. The 100 now has got to be. I don't even know. We'll just have you back.
Okay, I'll be around. I don't know if I'll be working. But
We'll have to time it. We can, plan another rooster heist or a car crash or something prior to the show.
Yeah, let's collab on that.
I don't know. I'm getting up there in age, so I doubt if I'll be here in 50 years.
Oh, no. You can outlive me, ladies and gentlemen. She'll be here in another 50. I won't. Or she will.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you guys
Thank
for having
you.
us.
It was a fun thing.
It was fun.
That was great.
All right.